Hey brewers, it's Paul here, and today we are gonna do a side-by-side brew day with the Gen 3.1.1 Brewzilla and the Gen 4. Just gonna check out what some of the differences are. Maybe one heats up faster than the other. Maybe one, has a better mash flow. I don't know, I've never done a side-by-side. So just looking at the two units, starting with the lid, on the Gen 3, they had these little plastic nubs, of which one broke off of this thing. They weren't the greatest. Versus the Gen 4, they have these metal loops, much better design. Next, we can look inside at the malt pipes. So the Gen 3.1.1 has like an overflow pipe that comes out here. So if your mash water is flowing too quickly, instead of coming out of the unit, it's just gonna fall down that. Usually if that happens, it's because your pump is running too fast. You can adjust the flow here. Looking inside the Gen 4, that's no longer required, most likely because on the bottom of the malt pipe, they now have all these perforated holes, so you get a really good recirculation during your mash. Next, we would move on to the control panel, which, as you can see, the Gen 3.1.1 I have on a milk crate because the control panel is all the way at the bottom. So if you have this on the ground, it's not easy to access. So I always had mine on a milk crate. You'll notice there's a manual pump button. And then on the side here are your two elements, 1000 watt and 500 watt. So getting up to mash temp, I run both. Once I reach mash temp, I'll turn off the 500 watt and just use the 1000. And then when you're boiling, again, you'd use both. Going to the Gen 4, control panel's nice and high. It's easier to read out, and all your controls are on here. So you're not turning on the elements or anything like that. This is your pump button, and the play pause will turn off or on the element. That's pretty much it. We'll go ahead and get up to our mash temp. On the 3.1, we're gonna hit pause, temp. You can see it flashing there. I wanna mash around 150. So I'm gonna put my strike temp to 154. The other thing is, if you notice, it goes up and down in 2 Fahrenheit differences. So 154, I hit play, see the element switches light up, we know it's working. Then on the Gen 4, you just use the up and down arrows. You can see down here, and it can go up by 0.1 degree Fahrenheit. So let's just get that, I'll just hold it. Get that up to 154 as well. 154. You can see that it's heating up by the fire emblem that's right there. So we're just gonna go ahead and let these get up to mash temp, and we'll come right back. So we've reached our strike temperature. We have 154 on the Gen 3.1. I'm just gonna double check that with my instant read thermometer here. I do have the pump running, so it should be a uniform temperature from top to bottom. So it looks like we're about 153.5, so that's pretty close. Same thing, I have the pump going on here. 154 is the target. We're at 153.6. Double check that. Way hotter. Almost 157. Wow. 4 degree difference. Interesting. I wonder if I just stir this real quick. No, same thing. So it's about 4.5 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than what the display is reading. So once we mash in with the grains, I'm gonna see if it's still a discrepancy or not. Let's go ahead and mash in. On the Gen 3.1, you wanna add your grain blocker. It's a little rubber black thing that covers the tube. I don't know where mine is, so paper towel is gonna do the trick. Just jam that right in there. That's gonna prevent the grains from going inside here. And I'm gonna change the temperature to 150 because that's what I actually want to mash at. And I'm gonna turn off the 500 watt element. I just need the 1000 watt going. All right, so we have all our grain in there. We're just gonna stir it real good. Make sure there's no dough balls. I'm gonna slow down the flow of the pump a bit to about half. Okay, that looks good to me. Put on our lid. I don't use the top plate. I don't use it on the Gen 3. I don't use it on the Gen 4 either. We'll put on the overflow inlet there. And start to pump back up. All right, we're at 152, perfect. Go ahead and mash in on this one, which is sitting at 153 now. I'm just gonna knock that down to 150. 50, perfect. I like to grab the hose and just pour water over the top. I find it helps mashing in a little bit easier. That's good. I don't feel any dough balls, so I'm gonna go ahead and same thing, put this at about half. And same thing, no top plate on here. I like to stir it a couple of times during the 1 hour mash. I find I get better efficiency if I do that. And let's double check that temperature. So it looks like it's settled around 150.5. So about 1 degree off. Oh no, it's going up. We're at 150. Okay, so for some reason when there was no grain, there was like a 4-degree Fahrenheit difference, but now, yeah, I'm reading 150.2 here and 149.9 here, so it seems good. Just put on our lid and we'll start our 1 hour timer. And we'll be back when we are ready to sparge. So we're done our 1 hour mash. We're gonna get ready to sparge. So I'm just gonna turn off the pumps on both units. One thing I noticed throughout the mash, when I was checking with the thermometer on the Gen 3.1.1, it was within 1 Fahrenheit, which is really good, I would say. I was only using the 1000 watt element. On the Gen 4, it would be as high as 5 Fahrenheit higher. And the reason I think that happened is it's running a full 1500 watts and turning it either on or off. You can go into the settings and change it to a PID. So what would happen is when you got close to the temperature you wanted, it would actually put less power to the element. So next time I use this, I'm gonna try that and see if it's a little more stable temperature that way. Okay, so our pumps are off. Take off our lid here. So we'll lift up the basket. Make sure the feet are lined up. The feet of the malt pipe are lined up with the feet of the unit. Same thing for this one. Now on the Gen 4, there are 2 sets of feet. So I'm gonna put it on the first ones, let it drain, and then once there's less wort in there, it'll be less heavy and I'll pull it up again. You don't have to do that, but it makes it a little bit easier. I'll start with the sparge water on the Gen 3, and nothing fancy. I'm just using a juice jug and I pour it over the top of the grains. I'm also gonna set it to a boil. Hit that pause button, hit the temp button, put on both of the elements. And on the Gen 3.1.1, you want it to go all the way up to HH. That's the hottest setting for boiling. Hit play, and there you go. All right. I'll raise the grain basket on the Gen 4 all the way up. Again, same thing, making sure my feet are lining up. There we go. I'm gonna set this one to a boil. So just hold that up arrow. And as long as you're at 212, you're fine, whatever, 227. And our fire is on, so it means it's heating up, and I'll just do the same sparge. Just gonna use the pump to get the rest of the water out of here because it's really low. I can't reach it properly. Okay, so that's done. We'll just let the sparge continue and we'll come back once we get to a boil. While we're waiting for the boil to happen, I'm just gonna get rid of the spent grain here. Grab some brew gloves because the small pipe's pretty hot. And one thing, if you're using the Gen 3.1.1, make sure you take off your overflow pipe. I don't know how many times I get calls from customers who accidentally threw it out with their grain. And I do the same with the extender rod here. Just that way you won't lose it. And the plastic bags that our all grain kits come with are perfect for discarding your spent grain if you don't have a compost or something. They're high quality and they handle the temperature pretty good. All right, that's all of it. We can get this thing cleaned up. And by the way, if you like any of these tips or this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for future content like this. All right, I'm ready to go get this put away. Remember to clean as you go in brewing. This makes the brew day a little bit quicker when you don't have this stuff sitting around for 4 hours, getting all dry and sticky. There you go, give her a quick wipe and she's done. All right, so we're at a boil. We're gonna grab our hops and go add them. So this recipe is for a pale ale. And the grain bill is 50% Turo, 50% Vienna, and all Citra hops. So we'll be adding ½ an ounce of Citra to each Brewzilla, ½ an ounce in here, and a ½ an ounce in the Gen 4. There we go, that's it. We're gonna start our 1 hour timer. One thing I just noticed here, it seems like the Gen 4 is boiling quite a bit harder than the Gen 3. So if we look in here, I mean, it's boiling, nothing too crazy. And if you look in this one, it's a lot more of a vigorous boil. They both have the exact same Brewzilla brew jacket on, so I'm not too sure. Maybe this one, the element's a little bit stronger. We'll see what the boil off is. And I mean, while we're here, I'm curious, I'll just take a quick gravity reading and see if they're similar. They both had the same 25-liter pre-boil volume. I should have cooled this down more, but I just want to quickly check. About 1.044. Ideally, I would have cooled this down to room temperature, but it's fine. And we are at 1.045. So yeah, very close. That's awesome. All right, we'll be back in a bit. So there's 10 minutes left in the boil. I'm gonna put in the immersion chiller. Always be careful when you're doing that. There's usually a little bit of water in there. It's gonna get really hot and just start spurting out of your tubing. And we're adding another ounce of Citra with 10 minutes left in the boil. And one quick tip, if you have an air compressor, when you're done with your immersion chiller, you can just blow all the water out. And that's what I did with this one. That's why nothing came flying out. I just an ounce there and an ounce in here. With 5 minutes left in the boil, I'm gonna add ½ a Whirlpool tablet to each and some yeast nutrient. You don't need to do that, but one's a natural clarifier and the other one is just some zinc and magnesium and other nutrients for your yeast health. And then we'll come back when it's time to chill. All right, so we're at the end of our boil. We're gonna chill down to 180 and then add some Whirlpool hops. So we'll just turn off the elements here. Turn on the pump. And turn on our chiller. And I'm gonna let that chill to about 180. One other thing I'm using, you don't need one of these, but this is a Grainfather Whirlpool attachment, and it speeds up the chilling quite a bit. You just have that in there, whirlpooling around, and yeah, it just saves on chill time. The other thing is, both of these Brewzillas come with a 25-foot immersion chiller. It's fine, it'll get the job done, but I found it took a little bit too much time, so I got a 50-foot immersion chiller in here. And then just because I have one kicking around, I'm gonna use the Blickman Therminator on this guy here. So I only have one water source. I didn't really think this through. Usually I stagger the brew day when I'm doing a side-by-side. So I'll chill this one down to 180, put in the Whirlpool hops, and then I'll chill this one down to 180 and put in the Whirlpool hops. I got everything hooked up. I'm gonna turn on our chilling water. And the water coming out of here at first is gonna be very, very hot, so just be mindful of that. So we're just gonna go ahead and wait for this to get down to 180 Fahrenheit. So you can see the Whirlpool attachment doing its thing. Helps move the wort around and chill it a lot quicker. Okay, so we're at 178. That did not take long at all, like not even 2 minutes. So I'm gonna turn off the cooling water and add in my Whirlpool hops. Going with another ounce of Citra, this time Cryo Citra. And we'll let that steep for like 15 minutes or so. And then I'll just chill this one down to 180 and then do the same thing. Turn on the cooling water for this one. And once again, the water coming out is gonna be really hot, so make sure it's not gonna splash up in your face or anything. We're already at 180. That did not take long. And same thing, an ounce of Cryo Citra. Let that one steep for 15 minutes or so. All right, not too sure what kind of yeast I want to use here. Let's try Bry 97, American West Coast. We got lots of yeast here. We got Mangrove Jacks, we got Lallemand, we got Fermentis. How about Omega Labs Dried Lutra? And I'll ferment this one, let's say around 25°C, and I'll ferment this one around 18. We'll see what the difference is. There we go. So we got this one down to about 75 Fahrenheit, which is about 24 Celsius. I'm gonna transfer it over. This is the batch we're gonna do with the Lutra. So I wanna ferment that one a bit hotter. I might even put a heat belt on here. I'll just monitor the temperature and go from there. But I know the warehouse where I'm gonna ferment this is usually around 23, 24 Celsius, so we should be all right. So obviously I turned my chilling water off. We're just gonna let this transfer, and I'm gonna start chilling the other batch right now. So on the Gen 3.1, we have 1.047 for our gravity. All right, so the Gen 4 is down to about 69. I'll just keep it chilling for a bit. I'm just noticing some black flies around here, so try to cover up the fermenter as much as possible. That should do the trick. Okay, so we got about 5.25 gallons, so about 20 liters or so in the Gen 3 fermenter. That's about where we want it to be. The recipe was for like 5.5. But one thing I didn't do is on the Gen 3s, you can tilt it to get more of the wort out. I didn't. The reason I didn't is they redesigned that on the Gen 4. So I want to see the difference there. See how much more wort we get out of this one without having to fool around with anything. So we'll just continue to let it transfer here. Okay, so taking a reading from the Gen 4, 1.048. So they're pretty much the same. So that means the boil off, even though it looked like it was boiling a lot harder on the Gen 4, boil off rate was probably very, very similar. So I got my clean and sanitized scissors and yeast pack. I just used some Star San, wiped it down. Just gonna go ahead and sprinkle it on top here. If I can get the lid off. You know what, we sell a tool exactly for this purpose. Aha. So this just goes on and should open no problem. There we go. Gonna quickly re-sanitize this, and we're just gonna go ahead and sprinkle that in there. And that's it. I'll probably end up putting a heat belt on this one with the Lutra yeast. But I'll just monitor the temps and go from there. Okay, so this one's done transferring. Same thing, sprinkle on the yeast. And yeah, same thing. Oh, here it looks like we got, yeah, about 5¼ gallons as well. We want to close that up as quickly as possible. So this one's gonna go in our fermentation chamber, fermenting around 18 Celsius, somewhere around there. So around like 66 Fahrenheit. Let's get that out of the way. And let's take a look at a couple of things here. So the exact same amount of hops went into each of these Brewzillas. the hops did not really get stopped that much by the false bottom. And on the Gen 3, they weren't real tight against the side of the unit. So probably when I was whirlpooling, a lot of them went through there. Luckily, it didn't clog our pump. Haven't had too many issues. However, if I was doing like a New England IPA and throwing in, you know, half a pound of hops or something during the boil, I would probably use a hop spider or something like that. So there you go. I mean, it blocks some. Get that cleaned off. And let's take a look at what's left in here. So not a lot, but say about a liter, give or take, because it draws from the side here. So if I would have tilted it, I could have got every last drop off, but I probably would have got all those hop chunks and stuff that are in there as well. Let's go ahead and look at the Gen 4 in comparison. So on the Gen 4, wow, come and take a look at this. I put in, 2.5 ounces of hops, and it looks like it stopped all of them. But if you notice on the sides here, it's like really tight with the walls of the Brewzilla, so not a lot can get through there. Go ahead and pull this out. Look at that. Great job at filtering out all those hops. And if we look in this one to see how much wort got left behind, almost none. That's like a quarter liter, looks like a cup or two at most. Some hop chunks did get through, but not that much. So that's it. That's Brew Day using both the Gen 3.1.1 and the Gen 4. They're both great units. The Gen 3.1.1 we still sell. It's about $200 cheaper than the Gen 4. So which one would you go for if you were new in the market? Would you save a couple bucks and go with this one? Or would you pay a little bit more for the Gen 4 and get the Wi-Fi connectivity, the better transfer of the wort, all that sort of stuff? If you have any questions, please put them in the comments down below. I try really hard to answer all of them. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to see more content like this. Cheers.